I never thought it would end like this. My voice cracked, but I refused to show him how much it hurt. Chris stood in front of me, the very person I had loved with all my heart, now a stranger. His face was calm, but I could see the guilt in his eyes, hiding behind the facade of someone who was moving on. Emma, we need to talk, he said, his voice softer than usual, almost apologetic. I stared at him. We need to talk? After everything? My heart hammered in my chest, but I couldn't let him see how much his words were breaking me. I had been a fool to think it would last. You're really doing this, aren't you? You're really leaving me for her. He didn't answer right away. I saw it, he was struggling, but not enough to stop what was happening. Emma, he looked like he was trying to say something, but I could already feel the distance growing. I get it, Chris. You don't need to explain. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I've been here, always, and yet you still chose her. You don't even see me anymore, do you? My words came out sharper than I intended, but the anger boiled inside me, mixing with the sadness. I never wanted to hurt you, he said, stepping forward. I didn't mean for this to happen. I shook my head, my hands trembling. But it did. You didn't mean for it, but you did. His face softened, but it didn't matter. His apology meant nothing to me now. I felt my heart breaking for the second time, knowing he wasn't sorry enough to stay. I thought we had something real. Chris, all this time, I thought I was enough. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, not letting him get that close again. Not anymore. You were always more than enough. But he hesitated, his gaze faltering. I don't know how it happened. She was there when I needed someone. So was I. My voice cracked again, but I refused to let him see the tears welling in my eyes. I was always there for you, Chris, and you threw it all away. His silence spoke volumes. He didn't know what to say, because he knew I was right. I was the one who had been there for him, and now, I was the one left behind. I won't beg you to stay. The words tasted bitter, but I meant them. I won't beg for someone who doesn't see me anymore. He looked torn, but I could see the decision in his eyes. It was too late. I turned away, needing to get out of that suffocating space. Goodbye, Chris. He didn't try to stop me. No more promises. No more lies. He let me walk away. And just like that, I was alone. But somehow, I knew this was the moment. Everything had to change. For me. I thought I was done crying. But the moment Sarah walked into the cafe with Chris, it all came crashing down again. My heart sank, and I felt like the world had tilted beneath me. I watched them, sitting together in the corner booth, laughing, touching, completely oblivious to the storm I was brewing inside. The anger built up, the kind of fury that makes your hands shake and your stomach churn. I couldn't breathe. I stormed over to their table, and they both froze when they saw me. Chris looked guilty. Sarah? She looked completely unfazed. Sarah. My voice trembled, but I refused to let it break. You really think I wouldn't find out? Chris tried to stand, but I held up my hand. No, sit down. I need to hear this from both of you. Emma, it's not what you think, Chris began, but I wasn't having it. Not what I think? I laughed bitterly, cutting him off. I think you've been sleeping with my best friend for months. That's what I think. Sarah looked away, her face pale, but I could see the guilt flickering in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you, Emma. You're my friend. Friend? I echoed, the word tasting like poison on my tongue. You were never my friend. Friends don't do this to each other. Chris shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Sarah before looking back at me. I'm sorry, Emma. I didn't know how to end things with you. And when Sarah, he stopped himself, probably realizing how hollow his apology sounded. Save it, I snapped. You're not sorry, Chris. You're sorry you got caught. He winced, his guilt obvious now, but it wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. I turned to Sarah. You of all people, you knew everything. You knew how much I loved him. And still, you chose this. I never meant for it to happen this way, Em. It was a mistake. We didn't plan it. Sarah's voice was shaky now, but I didn't care. A mistake? I shot back, my voice rising. A mistake is when you accidentally spill coffee on someone. This was calculated, Sarah. You knew exactly what you were doing. I'm sorry. She looked genuinely upset, but I could see through it. The tears in her eyes weren't for me. They were for herself. She wasn't sorry for betraying me. She was sorry she got caught too. I loved you both, and you both. My voice cracked, but I quickly recovered. You both threw that love away like it meant nothing. I turned away, my whole body shaking now. The rage was there, but so was something else, something I hadn't expected. A strange, sick calm. Emma, please. Listen, Chris reached for me, but I pulled back, shaking my head. No, I don't need to listen to you anymore. The words came out harder than I intended, but they felt like freedom. I don't need either of you. I could see it now, their relationship wasn't love. It was a web of lies and selfishness, built on nothing but need and insecurity. And I was done being part of it. I turned and walked out of the cafe, feeling lighter with every step. The anger was still there, but it was beginning to fade, replaced by a quiet, unsettling clarity. I didn't need them. I was done with their lies, their guilt, their mess, but more than anything, I was done with letting their choices define me. And in that moment, for the first time, I realized something. The love I thought I had, it wasn't the love I deserved. I thought I could bury the pain. I thought that if I just threw myself into work and school, I'd eventually forget about Chris and Sarah and everything they had done. But the truth was, the more I tried to focus, the more their faces kept creeping into my mind. It wasn't just the images of them together. It was the whispers, the rumors, I saw Chris with Sarah again. Every time, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. I tried to ignore it, but it wasn't working. One day, I overheard a conversation between two of my classmates in the library. They were talking about Chris and Sarah. It wasn't the first time I'd heard their names mentioned, but this time, the words cut through me like nothing else. She's with him now, huh? Looks like it's official, one of them said. Did you hear they've been together for months? I tried to keep my focus on my notes, but it was like the walls were closing in. I could feel my face getting hot, my hands trembling. I didn't want to hear this. I didn't want to feel this, but it kept coming, over and over. I stood up abruptly, leaving my books behind. I needed to get out of there. I needed to be alone. Days passed, and I did everything I could to keep busy. But it wasn't enough. The isolation felt suffocating. I spent most nights in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I had lost, everyone I had trusted. The loneliness was unbearable. That night, I broke. I was sitting on my bed, scrolling through my phone, mindlessly checking my social media. It was then I saw a post from Sarah, tagged with Chris. They were at a concert together, smiling like everything was perfect. It was as if the world had moved on without me. I couldn't breathe. I felt so small, so insignificant. I threw my phone across the room. The sudden crash of it hitting the wall startled me, but it didn't make me feel any better. I collapsed onto the floor, my chest tight, my heart in pieces. Why? I whispered to the empty room. Why did they do this to me? I curled up, hugging my knees to my chest, and the tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. But as the tears flowed, something inside me shifted. I couldn't stay like this. I couldn't stay weak, crying over people who didn't care. I couldn't let them define me anymore. I wiped my face and stood up. My eyes were swollen, and my body felt like it was still shaking. But I knew I couldn't stay in that place, in that state of mind. No more, I said aloud, the words solid and firm. I'm done. I'm done being their victim. The anger that had been burning inside me was still there, but now it was sharper focused. I wasn't going to let their betrayal control me anymore. It wasn't about getting revenge, it was about rebuilding myself. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Strength. I wasn't going to let this break me. I would show them all. I would show everyone who underestimated me. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. The gym was quiet that day, except for the rhythmic clanking of weights. I'd never been a workout kind of person, but something in me had snapped. Chris, Sarah, everything, none of it mattered anymore. I needed to prove to myself that I could be strong again, that I could be more than the girl they left behind. I gripped the dumbbells tightly, focusing on the burn in my arms. My body was sore from pushing myself harder than I ever had before, but I loved the feeling. It was like I was shedding the old version of me with every drop of sweat. Hey, Emma, a familiar voice called out. I looked up to see Liam standing at the edge of the gym, his hands tucked into his hoodie pockets. A soft smile pulled at his lips, and I felt a small sense of comfort wash over me. It wasn't often I saw him here. He usually stuck to his own routines, and I didn't blame him. Liam, what are you doing here? I asked, slightly out of breath. I could ask you the same thing, he teased, walking over. But seriously, I'm just surprised to see you here. I chuckled, lowering the weights. Yeah, me too. You've been working out a lot lately, he said, his gaze lingering on my arms, not in judgment but in curiosity. It's good to see you focused. I shrugged, a little self-conscious. I'm just trying to get my life together. You know, the whole new me thing. New me, Liam repeated thoughtfully. I like it. I met his gaze, feeling a pang of something unfamiliar. It was more than just appreciation for his words. It was deeper. Liam had always been there in the background, supporting me without ever pushing. And in that moment, I realized how much that meant to me. You've been quiet lately. What's going on? Liam's voice was gentle, like he was waiting for me to trust him with something bigger than just gym talk. I paused, looking down at the floor. I'm just tired of feeling like I'm not enough, you know? Liam's expression softened. You are enough, Emma. His words felt like a lifeline. He wasn't telling me to snap out of it or offering empty words of comfort. He just understood. I don't even know who I am anymore, I said, a little more vulnerable than I intended. I spent so much time being Chris's girlfriend, being Sarah's friend, and now I'm just me. Liam stepped a little closer, his voice steady. And that's enough. You're enough. I wanted to say more, wanted to explain how broken I felt, but the words got stuck in my throat. Thanks, Liam, for everything. I managed. He smiled. That same comforting smile I had always relied on. Anytime, Emma, you know I've got your back. The words weren't anything new, he had always had my back. But hearing them now, after everything I'd been through, meant something different. Hey, I said, finally meeting his eyes again. I'm starting to get the hang of this. Maybe we could hit the gym together sometime. Liam raised an eyebrow, a teasing grin spreading across his face. Are you asking me out? I laughed, the sound light and almost foreign to me. Not exactly, but if you want to, sure. His eyes softened, and I could see the sincerity in his expression. I'd like that. I nodded, my heart swelling a little. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't walking this path alone. Liam's steady presence was grounding me, and I found myself grateful for it. As we left the gym together, I realized that, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was beginning to live again. I wasn't ready for it. Not the way I thought I would be. I was at the cafe, scrolling through my phone, trying to avoid the reality that my life was a mess. But then, I heard the familiar sound of laughter. My stomach dropped, and when I looked up, there they were, Chris and Sarah, together, like nothing had ever happened. I froze for a second, my heart racing. It didn't matter that I had seen this coming, that I'd told myself I was strong enough. Seeing them together again, seeing him with her hurt in a way I couldn't describe. They were sitting at the table near the window, holding hands, talking like everything was perfect. And it pissed me off. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. I wasn't that person anymore, the one who crumbled at the sight of them. I wasn't the girl who cried herself to sleep. I was stronger now, but still, something twisted inside me. Chris noticed me first. His eyes locked on mine, and there it was, the same guilt I'd seen before. But it was different this time. He didn't look sorry. He looked uncomfortable, almost like he wanted to pretend nothing had changed. Emma, he said, standing up, as if we were still on good terms. I held up my hand, stopping him before he could get any closer. No, Chris, I don't need your apology. I'm not here for that. He seemed taken aback, but I didn't care. I wasn't here to make him feel better about himself. He'd already done enough damage. Sarah turned toward me, a hesitant smile tugging at her lips. Hey, Emma, how have you been? How have I been? The nerve of her to ask. I forced a smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. Better than you'd expect, Sarah. She flinched at my tone, but I didn't care. I was done pretending. I didn't think we'd run into you here, Chris said, clearly trying to act like everything was normal. We were just having the time of your life? I interrupted, crossing my arms. My voice was steady, but inside, my blood was boiling. Good for you, really. He shifted uncomfortably. Emma, we never meant to hurt you. Yeah, well, I said, cutting him off. You did. And that's not something you can just erase with a couple of words. I felt Sarah's gaze on me, but I refused to look at her. She was the last person I wanted to engage with. Her insecurity was written all over her face. She had no idea what it felt like to be me, to be betrayed so completely, and yet here she was, looking like she still had a right to be here. I turned back to Chris. You don't get it. Do you? I said. I'm not the same girl you left behind. I don't need your approval, and I don't need your pity. There was a brief silence. I could feel the tension between us, but I refused to let it shake me. Not anymore. I had come so far. Emma, please, Chris said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. Can we just talk about this? About what happened? No, I said firmly, standing up. There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turned on my heel, walking away before either of them could say another word. The last thing I needed was to get stuck in a conversation. I wasn't interested in having as I stepped outside into the cool air. I felt something shift inside me. The anger was still there, simmering under the surface, but there was something else, something I couldn't quite name. Power, confidence. I wasn't the girl who was afraid anymore. I had moved on. I was better than them. Hey, wait up. A familiar voice called out behind me. I didn't even have to turn around to know it was Liam. I stopped walking, feeling him catch up to me. Everything okay? He asked, his voice full of concern. Yeah, I said, smiling a little. I just had to remind them who I am. He smiled back, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. It's funny how life can feel like it's finally falling into place when you stop thinking about the things that broke you. Months had passed since I saw Chris and Sarah. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just indifferent. I had spent too long letting their actions dictate my emotions. I wasn't the girl who needed him to be happy anymore. I was at the cafe scrolling through my phone when I felt my stomach lurch. There it was. A message from Chris. Hey Emma, I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I made a huge mistake. I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at the words, my finger hovering over the screen. A part of me wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to ignore it entirely. But the truth was, I didn't even know how to feel anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't bitter. It was like I was looking at a ghost from a life I had already left behind. I typed back quickly, my fingers moving without hesitation. You had your chance, Chris. You don't get to come back into my life like nothing happened. I hit send before I could overthink it. A minute later, my phone buzzed again. Emma, please. I was wrong. I messed up. I should have never hurt you. Can we meet? I rolled my eyes and let out a short laugh. No, I'm not your backup plan, Chris. I don't need you. His reply came fast. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I owe you an apology. Please, let me explain. I looked at the message for a moment. I could feel the weight of his words, the guilt he was trying to push through. But it didn't matter. Nothing could change the past. And I wasn't going to let him rewrite our story. He wanted to play the hero now, but he had been the villain in my life for too long. You don't owe me anything. Goodbye, Chris. I put my phone down and took a deep breath. It felt good, better than I expected. I had power now. I wasn't hanging onto his words, waiting for him to decide my worth. I was free. A few minutes later, Liam slid into the seat across from me, his usual easy smile on his face. What's got you smiling like that? He asked, leaning in a little closer. I shook my head, still grinning. Just got a message from someone I used to know. Liam raised an eyebrow. Who? Chris. He sat back, a look of curiosity crossing his face. And I shrugged, feeling strangely calm. And nothing. He wants to talk, apologize. You know, the usual. Liam didn't speak right away, but I could see the way he was looking at me. What did you say? I smiled, the feeling of power still rushing through me. Told him goodbye. Liam's lips twitched into a smile. You're a lot stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I met his eyes, my smile widening. I've learned to be. There was something different in the air now. A shift, maybe. We were both in a different place than we had been before. I didn't need Chris to validate me anymore. I had Liam, and that was enough for now. We sat there for a while, just talking, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I had thought it was over. But Chris wasn't done with me yet. He started with the texts again. Apologies, more guilt, begging for another chance. I ignored every one of them. But then, one night, there was a knock on my door. I froze. My first instinct was to walk away, to ignore it. But something told me I needed to face this. I opened the door, and there he was, Chris, standing in front of me, his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His face was tired, but his eyes, those eyes still had that desperation in them. Emma, he started, his voice rough, like he was afraid I'd slam the door in his face the second he spoke. I need to talk to you. I crossed my arms, stepping back just enough for him to come inside, but not enough to invite him in. We've talked enough, Chris. You said your piece, and I said mine. No, please just hear me out, he said quickly, his voice cracking. I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I know I can't change what I did, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I've been thinking about you every day since. I miss you. We can fix this. We can try again, just like we used to. His words stung, but not in the way they used to. I wasn't the same girl who would have dropped everything to let him back in. Chris, I said quietly, meeting his eyes. It's too late. His face fell, the hope in his eyes flickering out. What do you mean? I love you, Emma. I always have. Love isn't enough, Chris, I said, my voice stronger now. You had your chance. You chose her. You chose a lie over me, and I'm done. I'm not the girl who waits for your apologies anymore. His lips parted, like he wanted to say something, but I held up my hand. No, I don't need your apology. I don't need anything from you anymore. The silence stretched between us, thick with everything that had been left unsaid. He looked at me like he was waiting for me to soften, to give in. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not this time. I know I messed up, he whispered, his voice almost a plea. Please, Emma, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it, I said softly but firmly. I'm not here to fix things with you. I'm fixing myself. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, without a word, I stepped back and closed the door. It wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting, no final confrontation. I just let him go. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I leaned against the door for a moment, breathing in the quiet of my apartment. It was over. I had made the choice, and it felt like the weight of the world had lifted from my shoulders. I didn't need him. I never did. A few minutes later, I heard my phone buzz on the counter. Liam's name flashed on the screen. I smiled, answering it without hesitation. Hey, I said softly, my voice already feeling lighter. Hey, you okay? Liam asked, his voice warm and familiar, like he could feel the shift in me already. I exhaled, a sense of calm settling in my chest. Yeah, I think I finally am. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then I heard him smile. Good, because I think it's time for you to start living for yourself. I laughed, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. I'm starting to, Liam. I really am. And for the first time in years, I truly felt free. I don't know when it happened, but somehow, I started to look forward to seeing Liam. It wasn't the way I looked at Chris. There was no desperation, no longing. It was something different, a quiet warmth, something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. I was at the park, sitting on the bench, my hands wrapped around my coffee cup. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, but I barely noticed. I was too deep in my own thoughts, trying to sort through everything that had changed in the past few months. Hey, Liam said, sitting down beside me with that familiar, easy smile of his. Hey, I replied, trying to smile back, but it was a little forced. I didn't know why, but I felt like there was something different in the air tonight, like he was waiting for something. You okay? He asked, his voice soft, like he could tell I was distracted. I nodded, not really knowing what to say. Yeah, just thinking. Liam didn't push me. He never did. Instead, he sat there in silence for a few moments, the kind of silence that felt comfortable. But then, he turned to face me, his expression serious. Emma, he began, his voice hesitant. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago. I looked at him, confusion flickering across my face. What is it? He hesitated again, running a hand through his hair before meeting my eyes. I've always been there for you, right? I mean, you know, that. Through everything with Chris, when you were hurting, I was right there. I nodded slowly, feeling a lump form in my throat. Yeah, you were. And I've always appreciated that, Liam. You've been more than a friend. He exhaled, like he'd been holding something back for a while. I'm glad you know that. Because I think I've been in love with you for a long time, Emma. I blinked, my heart skipping a beat. The world seemed to freeze around me for a moment. Liam, in love with me? I hadn't expected this. Not from him. My voice faltered, and I couldn't help the way my stomach twisted. Liam, I don't wait. He cut me off gently, his eyes filled with an earnestness I hadn't seen before. I know this might be a surprise. I didn't want to tell you like this, but I've been holding it in for too long. I've loved you for a while now, Emma. I just didn't know how to say it. Not when you were still hurting. I never wanted to make it harder for you. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I'd always seen Liam as the steady one, the guy who was always there, always patient. But this vulnerability in him was something new, something real. I didn't realize, I whispered, my mind swirling. It wasn't just the shock of his confession. It was the realization that I had been so caught up in my own pain. I had never seen him like this before. I know, he said quietly, his voice full of understanding. You've been through a lot. I didn't want to add more to that, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way anymore. I've always been here, Emma, and I always will be. But I need you to know that if you can't feel the same way, it's okay. His words hung in the air, heavy with sincerity. I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to dive into something new. Not after everything with Chris. But Liam, he deserved more than just a half-hearted response. I don't know if I'm ready for anything, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm still figuring things out. But I don't want to lose you, Liam. I don't want to push you away. He smiled then, a small, soft smile, as if he'd already accepted whatever I said. You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't about Chris. It wasn't about the past. It was about the possibility of something real, something different. Maybe I wasn't ready yet, but for the first time in months, I was open to the idea of a future. I turned to Liam, giving him a small smile in return. Thank you for waiting. He squeezed my hand gently, and I realized then that no matter what happened, he was the kind of person who would be there for me, no matter what, and that, in itself, was enough to make me believe in something again. I hadn't thought much about Chris and Sarah for weeks, not really. My life was moving forward, and that was enough for me. But the universe has a funny way of reminding you that things come full circle. I'd started with a message from a mutual friend. Did you hear? Sarah's been caught cheating on Chris, it said. I stared at the words for a long moment, letting them sink in. Part of me wanted to laugh, to feel vindicated, but I didn't. I wasn't that person anymore. I glanced over at Liam, who was sitting beside me on the couch. Chris and Sarah are done, I said quietly. Liam looked up from his phone, brow furrowing. What happened? Sarah, she's been seeing someone else behind Chris's back, I said, feeling an odd mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I guess karma caught up with her. Liam sighed, shaking his head. I'm sorry, Emma. I know how much they hurt you. I nodded, but the truth was, I didn't feel that hurt anymore. I'd moved past it. This wasn't about me getting revenge. It was about the consequences of their choices catching up with them. A few days later, I heard more. Sarah's lies were exposed, and it was all over social media. She had lied to everyone about her relationship with Chris, manipulating him to stay with her while she was already seeing someone else. Chris was heartbroken, devastated by the betrayal. I didn't feel sorry for him. He deserved to feel the weight of the lies he had let himself believe. He deserved to see the truth of who Sarah really was. One night, as I was walking through the city, I bumped into Chris. His eyes were red, his face pale. I could see the shame in his expression before he even spoke. Emma, he said quietly, voice cracking. I messed up. I should have never left you. I was blind. I stared at him, feeling nothing but the calm of someone who had already let go. Chris, I don't need your apology. I told you that already. His shoulders sagged. I didn't realize what I had until it was too late. I didn't see you. I didn't see what you were doing for me. I almost felt sorry for him, but I didn't. You had your chance, Chris. I'm not that girl anymore. I'm better than that. You're getting exactly what you deserve. He winced at my words, but I didn't feel the need to soften them. I wasn't here to make him feel better. I wish I could go back, he whispered, eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry. I shook my head slowly. You can't go back, but I can move on. I'm not the person I used to be, and I don't need your guilt to make me feel better. I turned to leave, but before I did, I glanced back one last time. Good luck, Chris, but you'll have to face your own mistakes. As I walked away, the weight of the past felt even lighter. I didn't need to see them suffer. I didn't need to watch their downfall to feel better. The peace I had found within myself was enough, and I knew one thing for sure. Their actions had already sealed their fate. Karma was doing its work, and I didn't need to be part of it anymore. I didn't realize how much I had changed until I looked back at the person I was just a few months ago. The girl who let betrayal define her. The girl who cried for hours, waiting for someone to apologize, for someone to make it right. That version of me was gone. I was sitting on the porch one evening, sipping my tea as the sun set. It felt like everything was finally in its place. No, I wasn't perfect, but I was at peace with myself. And that was something I hadn't been able to say in a long time. Hey, Liam's voice cut through my thoughts as he stepped outside, his hands in his pockets. Hey, I smiled up at him, feeling an easy warmth spread through me. It wasn't the kind of love that came with pressure or expectations. It was quiet, comfortable. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. He sat down beside me, the familiar weight of his presence grounding me. We sat in silence for a few moments, watching the sky change colors. You okay? He asked, glancing over at me. I nodded. Yeah, I really am. I've never felt this good in my life. Liam looked at me, his gaze soft. You've come a long way, Emma. I'm proud of you. I laughed, the sound light and free. I think I'm proud of me too. He smiled. You should be. There was a quiet moment between us, just the two of us letting the peace settle in. I didn't need any words to explain how far I had come, how much I had grown. I could feel it in the way I carried myself, the way I no longer feared my own emotions or the weight of my past. I've been thinking, I said, breaking the silence, about everything. About Chris, Sarah, how much of my life I wasted waiting for them to fix things. And I realized something. Liam turned to face me, his eyes curious but patient. I realized that it wasn't them I needed to fix. It was me. I needed to find my own strength. And I've done that. I've found myself again. He reached over and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. I'm glad. You deserve to feel this way, to be happy. I squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of contentment settle in my chest. I never thought I'd get here. I thought I'd always be broken, always be waiting for some sort of closure that would never come. You don't need closure from them. Emma, you've got everything you need right here. He gestured between us, his thumb brushing over the back of my hand. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the sun setting in front of us. I know, and that's what scares me, I think. I've spent so long waiting for something to change that I forgot how to just live. You're living now, Liam said, his voice steady and calm. And I'm here, every step of the way. I looked up at him, really looked at him. The man who had been there for me when I didn't know how to be there for myself. The man who had stood by me without pushing, without rushing. He was the steady force in my life now, and it felt right. I don't want to rush anything, I said, the words coming easier than I expected. But I know I'm ready for whatever comes next. With you. Liam's smile widened, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't carrying the weight of my past. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'm ready too, he said quietly. And for the first time, I didn't need to ask for more. I didn't need the past to come back and make it right. What I had now, what I had with Liam was real. And that was enough. I leaned into him, feeling the peace of the moment wash over me. The past no longer controlled me. I was free, and that was everything. I didn't think much about the past anymore. Sure, there were days when memories of Chris and Sarah would surface, but they didn't sting the way they used to. They were just echoes, faint shadows of something I had once thought defined me. But now, those shadows only served as reminders of how far I'd come. Liam and I were sitting on the balcony of my apartment, the city lights stretching out before us. We'd been through a lot together, and tonight felt different, more settled. The breeze was cool, the kind of calm I'd never known when I was tangled in the mess of my past. I glanced over at him, smiling to myself. You know, I never thought I'd get here, I said, my voice soft. He raised an eyebrow, turning to look at me. Where's here? Here. I gestured vaguely around us, where I'm actually happy, where I'm not defined by what happened with them. With Chris, Sarah, I'm not that girl anymore. I'm not waiting for some apology or closure that will never come. Liam smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I realized how much he had quietly, consistently been there for me. Not pushing, not rushing, just there. You've come a long way, he said, his voice sincere. I'm proud of you, Emma. The words hit me deeper than I expected. I'm proud of me too. I leaned back against the railing, the cool air wrapping around me like a protective blanket. I used to think that I needed them to validate me, to make sense of what happened. But now I realize I don't need any of that. I have everything I need right here. I looked at him, feeling my chest tighten with something that wasn't fear, but peace. I have you. He reached out, taking my hand in his. And I'll always be here. You know that. I nodded, my throat suddenly tight. I know. You've always been here, even when I couldn't see it. The truth was, I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid to be alone, or to move forward without the past haunting me. And I wasn't afraid of what came next, whether it was with Liam or on my own. I had found the strength to stand on my own, and that was something no one could take away from me. Do you ever think about them? Liam asked, his voice hesitant, as if he wasn't sure how to phrase the question. I thought for a moment, then shook my head. Sometimes, but not the way I used to. They're part of my past, but they don't control my present. They faded into the background a long time ago. He nodded slowly, squeezing my hand. Good, you deserve to move forward, not be stuck in what happened. I am, I said, smiling. I'm moving forward. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the sounds of the city below mixing with the quiet hum of my thoughts. For the first time, I felt completely at ease, not just with Liam, but with myself. You know, I said, breaking the silence, I think the woman I've become is exactly who I was always meant to be. Liam smiled, leaning in slightly. I think you're right. The past was behind me, and with it, the heartbreak, the betrayal. Chris and Sarah were no longer a part of my story, and I was finally free. I wasn't carrying their mistakes anymore. I wasn't waiting for anything to change. I was living my truth. And as Liam and I sat there, hand in hand, I realized that everything had led me here to a future full of possibility, no longer weighed down by the mistakes of the past.